What's up, guys? Shadetree Surgeon here, and I'd like to welcome you to Project Needle. Now, for those of you guys who are unfamiliar with Project Needle, it's been an ongoing series of videos I've been doing on this KX100 as we try to transform it from a little kid's motocross bike into the ultimate woods bike for the short rider, namely my girlfriend Jessica. So one of the reasons we started doing this is that if you're a short rider, like 5'1", 5'2", 5'3", roundabouts there, a woods bike with real power and real suspension just doesn't exist. It's not offered by the manufacturers. And really the only options you have are something like this KX100 or the CRF 150R. So if you're interested in seeing some of the other steps we've taken in turning this KX100 from a little kid's motocross bike into a woods bike for the short rider, I'm going to have the entire series listed below in the description. So up until this point, most of the modifications we've made to this bike have been really to create more usable power down low for the woods rather than the peaky high-end power that these things come with from the factory. And while creating usable power is all well and good, one of the other things that you need to focus on when converting one of these things from a little kid's bike to something that an adult is going to ride is ergonomics. So what ends up happening is that the bars that are on this bike are a little too narrow and a little too low. Jessica does have a longer reach than most 14-year-olds, even though she's about the same height. So today we're going to install a set of Pro Taper contour bars. So there's a few different reasons we're going with the contour bars instead of the stock bars on this, which are just regular 7/8 dirt bike bars. One of which is that the stock bars that come on this bike are basically like wet pasta. I mean, you look at them the wrong way and they bend. They're really, really garbage. And Jessica actually bent those on the first day she took the bike out into the woods. So after that we put a set of 7/8 Pro Taper bars on it, and again she bent those. The problem is that 7/8 bars with a crossbar for stability really don't offer much room to flex. So they're a lot more likely to bend when you hit the ground or take a tumble off a dirt bike, and if you're riding hard, you're gonna fall. So these Pro Taper contour bars offer a lot more flex. They're supposed to be a lot more comfortable in the long run because they're not as stiff as bars with a cross member, and they're just a lot stronger. And lastly, they just look a lot cleaner on the bike. And I know that aesthetics isn't our main goal here on this motorcycle, but it doesn't hurt. Everybody likes to look cool. The bar bend that we went with is a CR mid bend. And we specifically went with the mid bend instead of the CR high bend that Jessica originally wanted because the adapter kit to convert it from a 7/8 to a 1 1/8 kit does add a little bit of rise to the handlebars. And I was kind of afraid that the CR high bend would have made it too high with that rise in there. Also going on this bike while we're doing all this is standard equipment for any woods bike, and that's a set of handguards as well. And so one word of warning to anybody who's going to do this conversion on their smaller bike: when you go with a wider, taller handlebar, which Jessica needs when she's standing a lot in the woods, with a light little two-stroke bike like this, it is going to make the front end a little more sensitive. So one of the next modifications that we're going to do to this bike will be a Scott steering stabilizer. So, first things first, let's go ahead and get this front number plate out of the way. It's just held on by one 8mm bolt. Now we can go ahead and remove the clutch lever, the kill switch, and the brake lever from the handlebars. All of these are also 8mm bolts, with the exception of the kill switch, which is held on by a screw. Two screws also hold on the throttle assembly, except these don't need to be completely removed, only loosened, and the entire throttle assembly will slide right off the handlebar. Now we can go ahead and remove the four 10mm bolts that hold on the handlebars. Next, we're going to install the Pro Taper 1 1/8 bar adapters that will make this bike able to hold a contour bar instead of the standard 7/8 bar. After the top part of the adapter clamp is removed, it reveals two bolts underneath that screw directly into your existing handlebar mounts. They screw in using a 5mm Allen key, and since these won't be coming out anytime soon, I see no reason not to use a little bit of Loctite on the bolts. Remember, this is something you always want to tighten down evenly, so make sure to switch back and forth between the bolts as you're screwing it in. Now we can go ahead and install our handlebars. Remember, don't tighten it down too hard because we're going to need to move it around a little bit to get it just right. Handlebars are held on by 4 10mm bolts. So I ran into a little bit of a problem here. Since the bars are actually wider than the bars that came on this bike stock, it looks like I'm actually going to have to put on the throttle assembly before I put the bars on, or else the throttle cable isn't long enough to stretch. Now we can go ahead and reinstall the clutch lever, the brake lever, and the kill switch. Remember to leave everything slightly loose so you can move it all around and get it just right before you tighten it down. Now let's go ahead and slide on the new grips. A lot of guys have a lot of different methods for this, but I just use regular old Pro Taper grip glue. Some guys don't like it, but I've never had a failure with it. Apply just a little bit to the outer end of the handlebar and inside the flange of the grip. Now remember, after you put this stuff on there, it does dry incredibly quickly, so you have to get that grip on there and where you want it fairly fast. After giving the glue a few minutes to set, we can go ahead and cut off the tips of these grips to get ourselves ready to install our handguards. A razor blade would work better than a knife, but all I have is a knife right now, and if you're careful it works fine. Some guys like to drill out the center or just cut out the center. Personally, I like to cut the whole outside of the tip off. That way there's really nothing to interfere with the handguards, especially on the throttle side, because you don't want little burrs of rubber interfering with your throttle action when you screw everything together. After cutting off the tip of the throttle side grip, you're going to have to grab a drill or a Dremel tool and widen the opening on your throttle tube to accept the hardware for the handguards. Now that we have that done, we can go ahead and install the Moose handguards. As with all things, it's a good idea to leave all the bolts loose and mock everything up before we tighten it down and commit to anything, because you do have to finagle these things around a little bit. With the Moose Racing Kit are these two pieces of aluminum that go inside your handlebar and the bolt threads in to hold your handguard in place. One side is threaded, one side is not, so when you tighten it, they push against each other and expand outwards. So remember, with this part, it is very important that you don't get this too tight until that handguard is exactly where you want it to be. Now that we have the handguard where we want it, we can go ahead and tighten everything down. When tightening down the clamp on the handlebars, remember to alternate back and forth when tightening it down. You don't want to get this thing on there unevenly. Yes, that does happen, I just usually edit all that shit out. Now let's repeat the process for the clutch side. Yeah, so here we are, everything's tightened up, and Pro Taper bars are all on, and Prime Stick's about to go out and test it out.
So I haven't ridden this thing. Well, I think I rode it the other day when we washed them up. Not the other day, but like a month ago, actually. But it's been like 9 weeks since I've been like kind of all geared up to ride it. Just in the neighborhood. This thing is fun on the streets. You turned this on, right?
Huh?
This one's on, right? The GoPro.
Yeah, it's on.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. He's looking at the dirt bike on as if I'm questioning if the fucking dirt bike is on. So anyways, so I do like how wide these are. But I think I want them taller. Let's see, standing up, yeah. I mean, mean, when you stand, I guess you're supposed to be like this, right? They're not terrible. I can wait to raise them.
Sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. Everything that's wonderful is what I feel when we're together. Brighter than a lucky penny when you're near. The rain goes, disappears, dear, and I feel so fine just to know that you are mine.